Israeli military says it struck a military infrastructure site in its latest attack on Yemen's Houthi movement at the Red Sea port of Hodeidah. This comes as it starts ground operations into Gaza City, declaring Gaza is burning. It is the main urban center in the enclave where Israel has ordered hundreds of thousands of residents to flee. The offensive comes as a UN inquiry concluded that Israel has committed genocide in Gaza, incited by top Israeli officials, including Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Israel called the accusations scandalous, and also Israel saying that the aim is to dismantle Hamas as a political and armed organization. An Israeli military official said ground troops were moving towards the center of Gaza City and that the number of soldiers would rise in the coming days to confront. Let's now speak to Chris Sidoti, a commissioner on the UN Independent International Commission of Inquiry on the Occupied Palestinian Territory. A very good evening to you, and thank you so much for your time. The report speaks about, among other things, the targeting of civilians that Israel is legally obligated to protect and the imposition of inhumane conditions causing the death of Palestinians, including the deprivation of food, water and medicines. Let's speak about some of the compelling evidence that Israel's actions amount to a genocide.
Well, the compelling evidence is precisely the kinds of things that you've referred to here. We've been undertaking our investigations for 2 years now. The attacks by Hamas in southern Israel occurred on the 7th of October 2023. We commenced our investigations on the 10th of October, 3 days later. And in the time since then, we have completed a number of reports. This is not the first one. In fact, the first report in June last year dealt with the Hamas attack in southern Israel. And we found that Hamas and other Palestinian fighters had committed war crimes. We then turned to examining the operations of the Israeli forces in Gaza. And what we have found in our reports, 6 or 8 reports now, over the last 15 months, has been that Israel consistently committed war crimes and crimes against humanity arising from the mode of its fighting, its strategy in Gaza during that period. Our report released today deals with the issue of genocide, and it is based upon all of the reports that we have done to date. We have looked piece by piece at what is happening, the killings, the destruction of all healthcare facilities, and the killings of doctors, nurses, the denial of hospital equipment, other medical equipment and medicines. We've looked at sexual and gender-based violence. We've looked at the fate of education, where educational facilities, schools, universities have been destroyed and teachers killed.
Yeah.
We've examined the impact on cultural sites. We have put together the total picture of what has gone on in Gaza over the last 2 years. And on the basis of our own investigations, our fully corroborated findings, today we released our report examining the question of genocide. And our conclusion is, as you say, what Israel is doing in Gaza is genocide.
And Israel denies the allegation, saying that the report is anti-Semitic, lies inspired by Hamas, and also further says it is distorted and false, and saying that findings are based on Hamas falsehoods, continuing to justify its actions as self-defense. How then do you respond to this?
Well, I don't really need to respond to it. It's nonsense. The Israeli government consistently tells lies and peddles nonsense. But there is one very serious part of what it has said, and part of what you have described as the Israeli position. And that's this throwing around of allegations of anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism is a very important issue. It has resulted in the deaths of millions of Jews, quite literally millions of Jews, over the last 1,000 years, most notably and tragically during the course of the Holocaust. Throwing around allegations of anti-Semitism trivialises this concept. It is a very serious matter, and to see the Israeli government using crazy allegations of anti-Semitism as a shield to protect itself from criticism, to salvage their personal reputations, is nothing short of outrageous.
And you speak about the reports, and we've seen them, the different installments that you have released. And there's often a concern that, you know, while these reports are being released, while South Africa has taken its case to the ICJ, there's still a lot of devastation that is currently taking place on the ground in Gaza. How then does this report then ensure that the situation on the ground changes drastically from what we've actually been seeing?
We're not naive. We do not expect our report today to change a single aspect of the policy of the current Israeli government and its military. They are firmly committed, in the interests of their own self-preservation, to the continuation of the slaughter of the Palestinian people. What we hope our report will do is first provide information for courts at international and domestic level to undertake accountability exercises, to hold the Israeli officials to account. That will take time. I have no expectation of rapid action, but it will be important in accountability. Second, where I do expect rapid action, is the response of individual states. We can no longer rely on the leadership of the Security Council. We can no longer hope that the dysfunction of the Security Council is ended. It falls now to individual states, like South Africa, your country, like Australia, my country, individual states and groups of states like the European Union or the African Union to take action, not to wait for the Security Council. As soon as the South African case began against Israel under the Genocide Convention, as soon as the court made its initial orders on 26 January 2024, every nation was on notice of the risk of genocide in Gaza. And every nation had triggered an international legal obligation to act to prevent genocide. Now, some countries have taken that obligation seriously and have responded, but a great majority have done nothing, at least nothing beyond expressions of concern and calls for a ceasefire. It's necessary to move beyond that, to see action by individual states using everything in their capacity, within their capacity, to pressure Israel, to influence Israel, to act to prevent the continuation of this genocide. And that's where our report, I hope, can be most important, in the impact it has on individual states.
All right, let me thank you so much for your time this evening. Quite an important report there, as you know, really one has been reading through it. Thank you so much for your time this evening. Appreciate it. That's Sidoti, a commissioner of the UN Independent and International Commission of Inquiry on the Occupied Palestinian Territory.